Maria Santos collapsed against the Iron Wolves clubhouse door, a silent 2-year-old pressed against her chest. Behind her, 3 children stood like ghosts, dirty, trembling, hollow-eyed. The oldest, barely 8 years old, stepped forward and whispered through cracked lips, "Please, mister, we haven't eaten in 3 days. Our daddy hurt Mama real bad. We didn't know where else to go." Inside, 12 leather-clad bikers froze mid-drink. What happened next silenced an entire town. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. Hit subscribe and stay until the very end, because what these bikers did will leave you speechless. The knock wasn't a knock. It was a thud. Weak. Desperate. The sound of a body hitting wood because fists no longer had the strength to rise. "Reaper." Jack Thompson set down his beer and held up one hand. The room went silent. 12 men, leather cuts, tattoos crawling up necks and down arms, all frozen in place. "Nobody moves," Jack said. Tommy Wrench Williams was already halfway to the door. "Press, I heard kids." I said nobody moves. Jack walked to the window, pushed the curtain aside 1 inch. What he saw made his blood run cold. A woman, blonde hair matted with dirt and sweat, clothes torn, bruises on her arms, her neck, her face. She was sliding down the door legs, giving out beneath her. In her arms, a toddler hung limp, not moving, barely breathing. Behind her, 3 children. The oldest couldn't have been more than 8. She stood in front of her siblings like a shield, a little girl playing soldier because nobody else would. "Jesus Christ," Wrench whispered. Jack opened the door. The woman's eyes rolled back, pure white. Her body crumpled forward, and Jack caught her before she hit the ground. "Help us," she breathed. "Please, my babies." The little girl stepped forward. 8 years old, but her eyes were ancient. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at Jack and said, "Sophie stopped talking an hour ago. Mama gave us all the water. She hasn't had anything since yesterday. Please, mister. We walked a long time. We didn't know where else to go." Jack looked at the boy beside her, maybe 6, clutching his mother's shirt even as she lay unconscious. The boy's lips were cracked and bleeding, but he wasn't crying either. He was just empty. "Doc," Jack bellowed over his shoulder. "Get out here now!" Sarah Mitchell pushed through the crowd of bikers, her boots hitting the floor hard. Former Army medic, 3 tours in Afghanistan. She'd seen death in every form it could take, but when she looked at that toddler, her face went white. "That's heat stroke. Advanced. Get them inside now. Jack, move." The room exploded into action. Chairs scraped, tables shoved aside. Every bottle of water in the place materialized in seconds. Ice appeared from the back kitchen. Blankets thrown over shoulders despite the heat shock protocol, Sarah barked. The body didn't know what it needed. Jack carried the woman to the worn leather couch. She weighed nothing, bones held together by willpower and desperation. "I'm sorry," she whispered against his chest. "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to. We didn't know where. Save your breath." He laid her down gently. Sarah was already working on the baby, checking her pulse, tilting her head to clear the airway. "Get me cool water, not ice, it'll shock her system. Wet cloths. Mike, call Dr. Harrison, tell him we need him here 10 minutes ago." Mike Whiskey O'Brien grabbed his phone and disappeared into the back. The little girl dropped to her knees beside the couch. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Is Sophie going to die?" Sarah looked up. Something cracked in her expression, the thing she'd built after 3 tours to keep her human emotions locked away. It cracked right down the middle. "Not today, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Isabella." "Isabella, I need your help. Can you do that?" The girl nodded once, sharp, determined. "Hold this cloth on your sister's forehead. Don't press. Just rest it there. You're doing perfect. What's your mama's name?" "Maria. Maria Santos." "And your brother, the quiet one?" Isabella glanced at the boy still frozen by the door. "Gabriel, he's 6. He doesn't talk anymore. Not since—" She stopped. Sarah met her eyes. "Not since what, honey?" Isabella looked away. "Not since Daddy." The room got very quiet. Derek Chains Williams crouched beside Gabriel. He was the club's enforcer, 6'4", covered in scars, hands that had put men in the hospital more times than anyone could count. Grown men crossed the street when they saw him coming, but his voice when he spoke to that little boy was softer than anyone had ever heard it. "Hey, little man, you thirsty?" Gabriel didn't respond, didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on something far away, something only he could see. Chains held out a water bottle. "Small sips, okay? Don't have to talk, don't have to do anything, just drink." Slowly, Gabriel's hand reached out. He took the bottle. His fingers were trembling. "There you go. You're safe now. Nothing bad's gonna happen, I promise." Gabriel drank. Slow, careful sips. And for the first time, his eyes moved just slightly toward Chain's face. "Bear," Sarah called. "Get the other little one. The girl with the braids." Hector, Bear Rodriguez, scooped up 4-year-old Lily like she weighed nothing. The child clung to him, tiny fingers gripping his leather cut so hard her knuckles went white. "It's okay, Pequeña," Bear murmured. "You're okay. Nobody's gonna hurt you." Lily buried her face in his chest and started to cry. Soft, exhausted sobs that had been held back for days. Maria's eyes fluttered open. "My children. They're safe." Jack knelt beside her, holding water to her lips. "Drink this. Slow." She gulped desperately. "Slower. You'll throw up." She pulled back, gasping. Her eyes found Isabella across the room, then Gabriel, then Lily in Bear's arms. When she saw Sophie, saw Sarah working on her baby, a sound came out of her that wasn't quite human. "She's alive," Sarah said quickly. "She's stabilizing, but another hour out there and we'd be having a different conversation. What happened to you people?" Maria's hand shot out, gripping Jack's wrist. "Please don't call the police." Every head in the room turned. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" "They'll take my children. Please, they'll take them and give them back to—" Her voice broke. "Please, I'm begging you." "Give them back to who?" Maria closed her eyes. Tears streaked through the dirt on her face. "My husband, Victor." Jack's jaw tightened. "The bruises, the marks on your neck. He did that." She nodded once. "And you ran." 3 days ago. I took the kids and I ran. Our car died 40 miles out. We walked the rest." "You walked 40 miles, with 4 children, in this heat." Isabella spoke up from beside the couch. 8 hours, I counted." Jack looked at her. 8 years old, bleeding feet, eyes that had seen too much, standing guard over her mother like a soldier. "We rested 4 times, Isabella continued. 3 minutes each time. Mama wouldn't let us stop longer. She said he'd come. She said if we stopped, he'd find us. And your father, this Victor, he's looking for you." Maria's whole body shuddered. "He said if I ever ran, he'd kill me. He said he'd hurt the children first, make me watch, then he'd kill me slow." She opened her eyes and Jack saw something there he recognized. The look of someone who had stared death in the face and decided to run toward it anyway. I believed him. I still believe him, but I had to try. For them. Sarah finished checking Sophie's vitals. The toddler was breathing easier now, color returning to her cheeks. "She's going to be okay. Mild dehydration, heat exhaustion, but no permanent damage." She moved to Isabella. "Your turn, sweetheart. Let me see your feet." Isabella pulled back. "I'm fine. I'm sure you are. But let me check anyway." Reluctantly, Isabella slipped off her sneakers. The soles were worn through. Her socks were stiff with dried blood. Sarah's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed gentle. "These need cleaning. You walked 8 hours on these. Mama needed help carrying Sophie." "So you kept walking, on these?" Isabella shrugged, like it was nothing. Like 8 hours of walking on bloody feet to save her family was just what you did when you were 8 years old and your father was a monster. Jack stood up. "Everyone in the back. Church. Now." Whiskey frowned. "But the woman?" "Sarah and Bear stay. Everyone else church. 5 minutes." The brothers filed toward the back room, casting looks over their shoulders at the broken family on their couch. Mike hesitated at the door. "Jack, what are we doing here?" That's what we're about to figure out. The church room was thick with smoke and tension. 11 men sat around a scarred wooden table. Beer bottles and coffee cups scattered between them. Jack stood at the head. He didn't sit. Okay. Everyone saw what we're dealing with. Woman and 4 kids running from an abusive husband. Almost died in the desert. Made it here by pure luck and stubbornness. Or by design, Ghost said from the corner. Tommy Ghost Lee had been a social worker before he burned out and patched into the club. He knew how the system worked and how it failed. Clubhouse isn't exactly on the map. How'd she know to come here? Does it matter? Bear asked. She's here. Kids are here. They need help. What kind of help? Diesel cut in. We feed them, clean them up, send them on their way. Way to where? Whiskey snapped. You saw them. They've got nothing. No car, no money, no family they can reach. That woman's been running for her life for 3 days with 4 children under 10. That's not our problem. The hell it isn't. Jack raised a hand. The room went quiet. What do we know about the husband? Ghost pulled out his phone. Already ran a check. Victor Santos, age 35. Owns a used car lot in Mesa, at least on paper. Real money comes from the Scorpion cartel. Drug running, money laundering. He's got connections all over the county. Cartel Chains leaned forward. That changes things. Gets worse. He's got a deputy sheriff on payroll, Ray Collins. Collins has been covering for him for years, domestic calls that never get filed, witnesses who suddenly forget what they saw. So she was right, Wrench muttered. The cops won't help her. The cops are the problem. Ghost set his phone on the table. She calls 911, Collins shows up. Victor gets the kids back. And Maria... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Jack looked around the table. So that's the situation. Woman and 4 children running from a cartel-connected abuser with police protection. She came here because she had nowhere else to go. The question is, Diesel said slowly, what do we do about it? Silence. Then Bear spoke. My mother ran from my father with 5 kids. I was 6 years old. We walked for 2 days because she didn't have money for a bus. A stranger took us in, fed us, gave my mother enough money to get to her sister's house. He looked around the table. That stranger didn't have to help, had no reason to, but he did, because that's what good people do. We're not exactly known for being good people, Diesel muttered. Maybe that's the problem. Jack turned to the window. Through the glass, he could see Sarah checking Gabriel's pulse, while the boy sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. He could see Isabella holding Sophie in her lap, rocking her baby sister gently. He could see Maria, eyes closed, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. 15 years ago, Jack said quietly, I got a phone call. My daughter, my only daughter, her boyfriend had been hitting her. She'd been hiding it for months. By the time she finally asked for help, he stopped, swallowed hard. I got there too late. She died in my arms, bleeding out in a parking lot because some piece of garbage decided he'd rather kill her than let her leave. Nobody spoke. I swore that night, swore on her grave, that if I ever had the chance to stop something like that, I would, no matter the cost. He turned back to face his brothers. This is that chance, right here, right now. That woman came to our door because she had nowhere else to turn. Those kids are looking at us like we're the only hope they've got left. And if Victor comes looking, Ghost asked, let him come. Jack, this guy has cartel backing. I said let him come. Jack's voice was iron. We've faced worse. And we've never not once turned away someone who needed us. We've also never gone to war with a cartel for a stranger. Then maybe it's time we started standing for something more than ourselves. The room fell silent. Then Chains spoke. I'm in. Bear nodded. Me too. Whiskey raised his beer. Whatever it takes. One by one, hands went up around the table. Ghost was the last hesitating, calculating the odds. Then he sighed. All right. But we do this smart. Legal protection documentation, evidence of abuse. If this goes sideways, I don't want us holding the bag for a cartel war. Agreed. Jack looked around the room. Okay. From this moment on, that woman and her children are under our protection. Nobody touches them. Nobody threatens them. Nobody so much as looks at them wrong without going through us first. What about Victor? Jack's eyes went cold. Victor can burn in hell. And if he shows up here, we'll be happy to send him there personally. Assam. When they returned to the main room, Maria was sitting up, pale, shaking, but conscious. Sophie was asleep in Isabella's arms, her breathing steady. Gabriel still hadn't spoken, but he'd moved closer to Chains, sitting near his boots, like they offered some kind of protection. Lily had fallen asleep in Bear's arms. Maria looked up as Jack approached, fear flickering in her exhausted eyes. You're not sending us away. No. You're not calling the police. No. Then, what? Jack crouched down to her level. You came here looking for help. You found it. From this moment on, you and your children are under the protection of the Iron Wolves MC. Nobody's going to hurt you. Nobody's going to take your kids. And if Victor shows his face anywhere near this town... He let the sentence hang. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Why, you don't know us. You don't owe us anything. No, we don't. But there are people in this world who hurt the weak because they think nobody will stop them. We're the ones who stop them. I can't pay you. Don't want your money. Then what do you want? Jack looked at Isabella, still holding Sophie, still standing guard over her family at 8 years old. I want that little girl to sleep tonight without wondering if her father's going to break down the door. I want your son to start talking again because he's not afraid anymore. I want your babies to grow up knowing what safety feels like. He met Maria's eyes. That's what I want, and that's what we're going to give you. Maria's composure finally broke. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed deep, racking sobs that had been held back for years. All the pain, all the fear, all the lonely terror of running with 4 children, and no hope. It poured out of her in that moment. Sarah sat beside her and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. It's okay. You're safe now. Let it out. Isabella watched her mother cry. Something shifted in her face, the soldier's mask cracking just slightly. She hasn't cried in a long time, Isabella said quietly. Daddy didn't let her. He said crying was weakness. He said he'd give her something to really cry about. Jack felt his hands curl into fists. Your daddy's not here anymore. Your mama can cry as much as she needs. Isabella looked at him, studied him, making a judgment. Are you good guys or bad guys? What do you think? She considered this for a long moment. I think you're both, but I think you're trying to be good, and right now that's enough. Jack almost smiled. Smart kid. I have to be. Nobody else was going to protect them. She said it simply, factually, like carrying her entire family at 8 years old was just part of the job. Jack felt something twist in his chest. You don't have to do that anymore. That's our job now. Isabella's eyes narrowed, suspicious, still guarded. For how long? For as long as it takes. And then you'll be strong enough to protect yourself. But you won't have to, because you'll have people who love you doing it instead. For the first time, Isabella's armor showed a crack. Her lip trembled just slightly before she caught it and straightened her spine. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They set up Maria and the children in the back room. Clean beds, warm blankets, more food than any of them had seen in weeks. Sarah checked each child carefully. Dehydration, minor injuries, but nothing life-threatening. The biggest wounds she knew were the ones you couldn't see. Gabriel hadn't spoken a word since they arrived. He stayed close to Chains, shadowing the big man's movements like a silent ghost. He's been through trauma, Sarah told Jack quietly. Probably saw things no child should see. The silence is a defense mechanism. His brain shut down speech because speaking got him hurt. Will he talk again? Maybe. With time. With safety. With patience. She paused. Or maybe not. Some wounds don't heal. They just scar over. Jack watched the boy through the doorway. 6 years old, eyes that had seen too much. We'll give him time. Whatever he needs. You really going to war with a cartel for this family? Jack didn't hesitate. If that's what it takes. Sarah studied him for a long moment. You know this could get us all killed. Yeah. And you're doing it anyway. Yeah, she nodded slowly. Okay then. I'm with you. All the way. Midnight came and went. The clubhouse settled into an uneasy quiet. Bear took first watch sitting on the porch with a shotgun across his knees. The others rotated in shifts, coffee keeping tired eyes open. Maria finally slept the first real sleep she'd had in months. The children curled around her like puppies, seeking warmth, seeking safety. Isabella was the last to fall asleep. She lay watching the door, waiting for it to burst open, waiting for Victor to appear with rage in his eyes and blood on his mind. When her eyes finally closed, it was with one hand on Sophie's arm, ready to run, always ready to run. At 2 a.m., Whiskey came to relieve Bear on watch. Anything? Quiet, too quiet, Bear stretched joints popping. Woman's got maybe a day before that husband figures out where they went. Desert's big, but not that big. He'll come. Let him. Bear shook his head. You young guys always looking for a fight. Sometimes the smart move is avoiding the fight altogether. We're not avoiding anything. We're making a stand. Yeah, that's what worries me. Bear went inside. Whiskey settled into the chair, watching the dark highway stretch toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, a man named Victor Santos was hunting for his family. Whiskey checked his gun. Let him hunt. At 3:17 a.m., Jack's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered on the second ring. Who is this? A voice smooth, cold, dripping with controlled rage. You have something that belongs to me. Jack's grip tightened on the phone. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play games with me. My wife, my children, they're in your clubhouse right now. I know everything. Your wife and children are safe, that's all you need to know. A laugh, soft, dangerous. Safe. You think they're safe with you? Let me explain something, biker. I have friends everywhere. Police judges, federal agents. I have more money than you'll see in 10 lifetimes and more connections than you can imagine. Congratulations. You still can't have them. Silence for a moment. Then, I'm going to give you one chance. One. Send them out by sunrise and I'll forget this ever happened. You can go back to your little club, your little games, your little lives. No harm done. And if I don't, the voice dropped to a whisper, then I will burn your clubhouse to the ground with everyone inside. I will hunt down every member of your pathetic little gang and their families. I will make you watch as I destroy everything you love. And then, only then, I will kill you. Slowly, painfully. While Maria watches, while my children learn what happens to people who take what belongs to me. Jack's voice was steady. You done? I'm serious. So am I. Let me make something clear, Victor. I don't know who you think you're talking to, but we're not the people you're used to pushing around. We don't scare, we don't negotiate, and we don't ever give up people who come to us for help. Then you'll die for strangers, if that's what it takes. But I promise you this, if you come for them, you better bring an army, because you're going to need it. He hung up. Bear appeared in the doorway, gun in hand. Who was that? Victor Santos. He knows they're here. How? Doesn't matter. What matters is, he's coming. Jack stood, sliding his phone into his pocket. Wake everyone up. Full lockdown. Nobody in or out without authorization. And the woman, Jack looked toward the back room where Maria slept, her children curled around her, finally believing for just a few hours that they were safe. We don't tell her yet. Let her sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard enough. Bear nodded and disappeared. Jack walked to the window and stared out at the darkness. Victor Santos was coming. Let him come. At 4 a.m., Gabriel appeared in the doorway. Jack hadn't heard him approach. The boy moved like a ghost, silent, watchful, invisible. "Hey, buddy, can't sleep." Gabriel shook his head. "Want some water? Something to eat?" Another head shake. Jack waited. Something in the boy's eyes said he had words trapped inside him, words fighting to get out. Finally, Gabriel spoke. 2 words, barely a whisper. "He's coming." Jack knelt down to the boy's level. "I know, but we're ready." Gabriel's eyes, those ancient, haunted eyes, studied Jack's face. "He hurt Mama real bad last time. Put her in the hospital. Isabella called 911, but the police they just left. They didn't help. They laughed at us." Jack felt rage building in his chest, hot, pure, barely controlled. "That won't happen here. Nobody's laughing at you now. You promise?" "I promise." Gabriel looked at him for a long moment. "Mama said promises are lies. She said everybody lies. Daddy promised to love us and he hurt us instead." "Not all promises are lies, Gabriel. Some people keep them, no matter what." "How do I know you're that kind?" Jack reached out slowly, giving the boy time to pull away, and rested a hand on his shoulder. "You don't, not yet. But stick around and I'll prove it to you. Every single day. Until you believe me." Gabriel didn't pull away. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." And then so soft, Jack almost didn't hear it. "Thank you." By 5 a.m., the clubhouse was a fortress. Every window covered, every door reinforced, weapons checked and loaded, communications established with allied chapters in Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff. If Victor wanted a war, he'd get one. But more importantly, if Maria and her children wanted safety, they'd have it. Whatever it takes. Jack sat on the porch as dawn broke over the desert, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Behind him, a woman and 4 children slept peacefully for the first time in months. Ahead of him, a storm was coming. He lit a cigarette and waited for the sun. At 6:30 a.m., Isabella found him. She walked out onto the porch barefoot, her bloody feet wrapped in fresh bandages, and sat down beside him without asking permission. "You're up early," Jack said. "I don't sleep much. Haven't for a while." "Because of your father," she nodded. "He used to come into our rooms at night, not to hurt us, well, sometimes to hurt us, but mostly just to watch. Stand in the doorway and watch. It was wrong. I could feel it. So I learned to stay awake, to watch back, to protect them. That's a lot of responsibility for someone your age. Someone had to do it." Jack took a drag of his cigarette. "Not anymore. That's our job now." Isabella was quiet for a moment. Then, "The man who called last night, that was him, wasn't it, my father?" Jack looked at her sharply. "You heard that? I hear everything. I had to. Knowing what was happening was the only way to keep us safe." "What else did you hear?" "That he's coming. That he's going to burn this place down. That he's going to hurt all of you because of us." Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "We should leave, before sunrise. If we go now, maybe—" "Stop." Jack turned to face her fully. "Listen to me, Isabella. What your father does, that's his choice. His evil, not yours. You didn't make him this way. You didn't invite this fight. He did. And if he wants to come here looking for trouble, that's on him, not on you or your mother or your brothers and sister. But people could get hurt. People get hurt when good people do nothing. When someone's being attacked and everyone just looks away. That's how monsters win." He met her eyes. "We're not looking away. Not this time. Not ever again." Isabella's lip trembled. "Why do you care? Nobody else ever did." "Because once, a long time ago, I had a daughter. And I would have given anything for someone to help her the way we're helping you. I didn't get that chance. But you did. And I'm not going to waste it." Something broke in Isabella's face. The soldier's mask crumbled completely. And suddenly, she was just a little girl, scared and exhausted, and desperately wanting someone else to be strong for a change. She didn't cry, but she leaned against Jack's shoulder and stayed there, breathing slowly, letting herself feel safe. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. Because this is the first time in my whole life anyone's ever—" She stopped. "Anyone's ever what?" "Kept a promise." Jack put an arm around her shoulders. "Get used to it, kid. We keep all of them." At 7 a.m., Maria woke up. She found Jack and Isabella on the porch, and for one terrible moment she thought her daughter had been hurt, had tried to run, had done something dangerous to protect the family again. Then she saw Isabella leaning against Jack's shoulder, peaceful and calm, and she stopped. I thought—" Jack looked up. "She's okay. We were just talking." Maria's eyes filled with tears. She never lets anyone." "I know." Maria walked onto the porch and sat on Isabella's other side. The girl shifted, curling against her mother, and for a moment they were just a family, broken but healing, terrified but surviving. Jack stood up, giving them space. "Get some breakfast. Sarah's cooking. We've got a long day ahead." "What happens next?" Maria asked. Jack looked toward the highway, toward the horizon, toward whatever was coming. "We get ready, and we stand together, whatever comes." Maria nodded slowly. She pulled Isabella close and pressed a kiss to her daughter's hair. "I love you, mija." "I love you too, Mama." "We're going to be okay. I promise." For the first time, the very first time, Isabella believed her. At 8 a.m., Bear spotted movement on the highway. Not one vehicle. Not two. 15. Trucks, SUVs, and a black Mercedes leading the convoy like a shark cutting through dark water. Bear grabbed his radio. "Reaper, we've got company. A lot of company." Jack's voice came back calm and steady. "How many? Well, 15 vehicles, maybe 40 men. They're coming fast." A pause. Then, "Get everyone inside. Defensive positions. Nobody fires unless I give the order. And the woman, the kids. Tunnel. Now. Sarah knows the way." Bear lowered the radio and looked at the approaching convoy. Dust clouds rising behind them. Sun glinting off windshields like the eyes of predators. Victor Santos had come to claim what he thought was his. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The convoy rolled to a stop 50 yards from the clubhouse. Engines idling. Dust settling. 40 men stepped out of 15 vehicles, spreading into a loose formation that screamed military training. And at the center of it all, emerging from the black Mercedes like a snake from tall grass, stood Victor Santos. He was smaller than Jack expected. 5'8", maybe 5'9". Dark hair slicked back, expensive suit that looked absurd in the desert heat. But his eyes, those eyes were pure predator. Cold, calculating. The eyes of a man who had hurt people his whole life and enjoyed every second. "Jack Thompson," Victor's voice carried across the distance. "We need to talk." Jack stood on the porch, arms crossed. Behind him, 11 brothers waited with hands near weapons. Ready, steady. "Nothing to talk about." "I think there is." Victor took a step forward. "You have my wife, my children. I want them back. They don't want to go with you. What they want is irrelevant. They're mine." Jack felt his jaw tighten. People aren't property, Santos. Everything is property. Everything has an owner. Maria and those children belong to me. I fed them. I clothed them. I kept a roof over their heads. That makes them mine. That makes you delusional. Victor's smile didn't waver. "I'm going to give you one more chance. Send them out right now. Walk away from this and I'll forget it ever happened. My men will leave. I'll take my family home, and you can go back to playing outlaw. And if I don't," Victor's smile finally faded, "then I'll take them anyway, and everyone standing behind you will die in the process." Jack looked at the 40 men, looked at the weapons barely concealed under jackets, looked at Deputy Sheriff Ray Collins standing at Victor's right-hand badge gleaming in the morning sun. "You brought a cop. Cute. I brought the law," Victor nodded to Collins. Deputy. Collins stepped forward, pulling a folded paper from his jacket. I've got a warrant here for Maria Santos. Child endangerment. Flight risk. Judge signed it this morning. Let me see that. Collins walked to the porch and handed over the document. Jack read it slowly, feeling Ghost materialize at his shoulder. This is garbage, Ghost muttered. Child endangerment. She was protecting them from him. Any judge would see that. Not Judge Morrison, Collins said. He saw it different. Judge Morrison. Ghost's voice went flat. Victor's poker buddy, the one who owns property next to his car lot. Collins shrugged. Warrant's legal. I'm here to serve it. You're here to kidnap a woman and hand her to her abuser. I'm here to do my job. Jack handed the warrant back. Your job is protecting people, not trafficking them. My job is following court orders. Collins' hand drifted toward his holster. Now, you can hand her over peacefully, or I can call for backup and take her by force. Your choice. Bear stepped forward. Backup. You mean the cartel soldiers standing behind you? That's your backup. Collins didn't answer. Jack looked past him to Victor. You really think this is going to work? You show up with 40 armed men and a corrupt cop, and we're just going to hand over a terrified woman and her children. I think you're going to do the smart thing. Victor checked his watch. You've got 5 minutes. After that, things get ugly. Things are already ugly. You made them that way. 4 minutes, 50 seconds. Jack turned to Ghost. Get the camera. Already rolling. Ghost held up his phone. Been recording since they pulled up. Every word, every face, every threat. Victor's smile flickered just slightly before returning. Recordings can be lost. Phones can be destroyed. Already uploaded to the cloud and copied to 3 backup servers. Ghost stepped forward. I spent 15 years in social services watching men like you beat women and get away with it. Watching the system protect abusers because they had money and connections. I'm not watching anymore. You think a video is going to stop me? I think a video is going to put you in prison. You just threatened to kill 11 men on camera. You brought armed cartel soldiers onto private property. You're using a corrupt police officer to kidnap a domestic violence victim. Ghost smiled. How's that going to play on the news? Victor's eyes went cold, really cold. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Neither do you. The standoff stretched, 40 men against 12. 1 corrupt warrant against 1 phone recording, tension thick enough to choke on. Then movement at Victor's left. A man in a dark jacket stepped forward. Big, muscular, face like carved stone. He whispered something in Victor's ear. Victor listened, nodded. Fine. We'll do this the legal way. He looked at Jack. For now. But understand something, biker. That woman and those children are coming home with me. Today, tomorrow, next week, doesn't matter. I always get what's mine. Not this time. We'll see. He turned and walked back to the Mercedes. The cartel soldiers followed. One by one, the vehicles pulled away, disappearing down the highway in a cloud of dust. Collins lingered. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. Victor doesn't lose. Ever. Anyone who stands in his way ends up dead or destroyed. Then I guess we'll be the first exception. Collins shook his head. There are no exceptions, only examples. He walked to his cruiser, got in, and drove away. Bear let out a long breath. That went better than I expected. That was round 1. Jack watched the last vehicle disappear over the horizon. He's not giving up. He's regrouping. So what do? We prepare for round 2. Sarah emerged from the clubhouse. They're in the tunnel, safe, but Maria's asking what happened. Tell her the truth. Her husband showed up with an army, and we sent him home empty-handed. That's going to terrify her. She's already terrified. At least now she knows we can protect her. Sarah nodded and went back inside. Whiskey approached, face grim. I made some calls. Victor's connected deeper than we thought. He's not just moving drugs. He's laundering money for 3 different cartels. The Scorpions are his main partners, but he's got ties to groups in Mexico, California, even up in Nevada. How much money are we talking? Tens of millions, maybe more. Chains whistled. No wonder he's got cops on payroll. Cops, judges, politicians. Whiskey pulled out his phone. I also found out something else. Victor's not just an abuser, he's a collector. What does that mean? It means Maria's not the first wife he's had. There were two before her. Both filed for divorce. Both disappeared before the papers were finalized. The silence was absolute. Disappeared, Jack repeated. Gone. No trace. One had a teenage daughter. She disappeared too. He killed them. Can't prove it. But yeah, that's what everyone thinks. Jack's hands curled into fists. Maria knows about this. I don't think so. Victor was careful. Different states, different names. He reinvents himself every few years. So she's not just running from an abuser, she's running from a murderer. That's my read. Jack looked toward the clubhouse, toward the woman and children hidden inside. This changes things. Yeah, it does. He walked inside, down the hall, through the hidden door that led to the tunnel. Maria sat on a cot with her children around her. Sophie in her lap, Lily pressed against her side. Gabriel silent and watchful. Isabella standing guard by the entrance. Maria looked up when Jack appeared. Her face was pale drawn, but her eyes were clear. He came, she said. It wasn't a question. He came, he left. But he'll be back. Yes, Maria closed her eyes. Then we should go. Before he comes back. Before anyone else gets hurt. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. And how long before he finds you again? A week, a month. He found you here in less than 3 days, Maria. He's got resources you can't imagine. Then what am I supposed to do? Her voice cracked. What am I supposed to do, Jack? I've been running for 3 days. I've been running for years. I'm so tired of running. Then stop. What? Stop running. He crouched down to her level. Stay here. Fight. Not alone with us. We've got lawyers, we've got connections, we've got brothers in every state. We can protect you in ways running never could. You don't understand what he's capable of. I know exactly what he's capable of. Jack's voice was quiet. Maria, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. Fear flickered in her eyes. What? Victor's had other wives before you. Maria's face went still. What? 2 that we know of. Both filed for divorce. Both disappeared. Disappeared? You mean they were never found? Neither was the daughter of one of them. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. No, that's not. He couldn't. Maria. He's evil, but he's not. He wouldn't. He would. And if you go back to him, if you run and he catches you, the same thing will happen to you and to your children. Maria started shaking. Her whole body trembled like she was standing in a freezer instead of a desert tunnel. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know. How could you? He hides it. That's what men like him do. They hide the bodies and the evidence, and they smile for the cameras, and nobody ever suspects until it's too late. My children. Maria looked at them, really looked at them, and something hardened in her face. He's not taking my children. No, he's not. I'll die before I let him touch them. You won't have to die, but you might have to fight. Maria straightened her spine, wiped her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice was steel. Then tell me what to do. Jack smiled. That's more like it. Isabella watched the whole exchange. When her mother's back was turned, she caught Jack's eye and mouthed 2 words, thank you. Jack nodded once and headed back up the tunnel. They had work to do. Ghost met him at the top. I've got something. Good or bad? Both. The journalist I contacted, Elena Vasquez from the Arizona Republic, she's interested. Very interested. She's been investigating Victor for months, but couldn't get anyone to talk on the record. Maria's story could blow everything open. That's the good news. That's the good news. And the bad? Ghost hesitated. Elena says Victor's been buying up local officials for years. Not just Collins. Half the sheriff's department is on his payroll. The mayor owes him money. 2 city council members are investors in his car lot. So the whole town is compromised. Not the whole town, but enough. If this goes to a local court, Victor will win. We need to go federal. How do we do that? FBI. Elena has contacts. But they need evidence, not just testimony. They need documentation of the cartel money, the corruption, the disappearances. Without that, it's just accusations. Where do we get documentation? Ghost smiled grimly. That's the problem. Victor keeps everything in his head. No paper trail. The only records are in his private office, and that's in his house, heavily guarded. So we need to get inside. Or we need someone who was already inside. They both looked toward the tunnel entrance. Maria might know something, Ghost said. Things she saw, places he kept, documents, passwords, anything. She lived with him for 10 years. She's been through enough. I know. But if we don't take Victor down permanently, she'll never be safe. None of them will. Jack ran a hand over his face. All right, but I talked to her, gently. She's not a witness, she's a victim. Agreed. Jack went back down to the tunnel. Maria was still sitting with her children, but something had changed in her posture. She looked more alert, more present, like the news about Victor's previous wives had woken something up inside her. Maria, I need to ask you some questions about Victor's business. She nodded. I'll tell you whatever I can. Did you ever see him with paperwork, financial documents, contracts, anything like that? Maria thought for a moment. He had an office, in the house. I wasn't allowed inside, but sometimes I'd see him carrying files. Manila folders mostly, and there was a safe. A safe. Behind a painting in his study. I saw him open it once. He didn't know I was watching. The combination was something to do with our wedding date. That could be important. What else? He had a laptop. Kept it with him always. Password protected, I never knew the code. But he'd work on it late at night when he thought everyone was sleeping. Isabella spoke up from the corner. I know the password. I know the... Everyone turned. What? Jack asked. The laptop password. I watched him type it once. He didn't know I was there. She looked at her mother. It's the date Sophie was born, but backwards. Maria stared at her daughter. How did you... I watched everything, Mama. I had to know what he was doing, in case we needed to run. Isabella's face was calm, determined. I watched, and I remembered, and I waited. I knew someday we'd need what I saw. Jack shook his head slowly. You're something else, kid. I'm a survivor. You have to be smart to survive. Ghost was already pulling out his phone. If we can get that laptop, we might have everything we need. Bank records, communications, maybe even evidence of the previous disappearances. Getting it means getting into Victor's house, Jack said, or getting Victor to bring it to us. How? Ghost smiled. We make him angry enough to come back here with everything he's got. In the confusion, someone grabs the laptop. That's risky. Everything's risky now. The question is whether we want to play defense forever or take the fight to him. Jack looked at Maria, at Isabella, at the children who'd walked 8 hours through the desert to escape a monster. We take the fight to him. Bear's voice crackled over the radio. Prez, you need to get out here. We've got visitors. Different visitors. Jack frowned. Who? News vans. 2 of them. And a third vehicle I don't recognize. Jack exchanged looks with Ghost. Elena. Must be. She works fast. They headed outside. 2 news vans were parked on the highway, cameras already set up and filming. A third car, a sensible sedan, sat between them. A woman in her 40s stepped out, notepad in hand. Jack Thompson, she called. Who's asking? Elena Vasquez. Arizona Republic. Your friend Ghost said you might have a story for me. Jack walked to meet her. Ghost talks too much. He talks enough. Elena's eyes were sharp, intelligent. I've been investigating Victor Santos for 2 years. Every trail goes cold. Every witness disappears. Every cop I contact suddenly loses interest. Then I get a call saying there's a woman, a survivor, who's willing to talk, and that the Iron Wolves MC is protecting her from a cartel-connected murderer. That's about the size of it. I need to talk to her, on camera. She's been through hell. I understand. But if you want Victor Santos behind bars, I need her story, on the record. Otherwise, it's just rumors and suspicions. Jack hesitated. I'll ask her. No promises. That's all I'm asking. He went back inside, back to the tunnel, back to Maria. There's a journalist outside. She's investigating Victor. Has been for years. She wants to interview you. Maria's face went pale. On camera. That's the idea. But if Victor sees, Victor already knows where you are. He already knows we're protecting you. This isn't about hiding anymore, Maria. This is about fighting back. Maria looked at her children. At Isabella, still standing guard. At Gabriel, silent but listening. At Lily and Sophie, finally starting to relax after days of terror. If I talk, she said slowly, if I tell everyone what he did, he'll never stop. He'll come after us forever. He's already coming after you forever. The only question is whether you face him alone or with an army at your back. Isabella stepped forward. I'll do it. Maria spun around. What? The interview. I'll do it. I'll tell them everything. Isabella's chin lifted. I saw more than you did, Mama. I remember things you don't, and I'm not afraid of him anymore. Isabella. He hurt us, for years. He hurt you. He hurt me. He hurt Gabriel so bad he stopped talking. Someone has to tell the truth. Someone has to make it stop. Tears streamed down Maria's face. You're 8 years old. I know how old I am. I also know what I saw. And I know that if we don't do this, he'll find us again. And again. And again. Until there's nobody left to find. Maria knelt down and hugged her daughter fiercely. When did you get so brave? I was always brave, Mama. I just didn't have anywhere to put it. Jack watched them hold each other. Something twisted in his chest, the same place where his own daughter still lived. Still hurt. Still reminded him every day of what he'd lost. Okay, Maria whispered finally. Okay, we'll both do it. Together. Jack nodded. I'll tell Elena. He walked back outside. The sun was climbing higher heat, rising off the desert floor in shimmering waves. Elena Vasquez waited by her car notepad ready. She'll talk. Her daughter, too. Elena's eyebrows rose. The daughter, she's a child. She's a survivor, and she wants her story told. That's unprecedented. So is a cartel-connected murderer with cops on his payroll hunting a mother and 4 children through the desert. Nothing about this is normal, Ms. Vasquez. The question is whether you're willing to tell it. Elena studied him for a long moment. This could be the biggest story of my career. It could also get you killed. Victor doesn't leave witnesses. Neither do I. She closed her notepad. When can we start? Give them an hour to prepare. They've been through hell and back. 1 hour. Then we talk. Elena returned to her crew. Jack watched her go, mind racing through possibilities and dangers. Chains approached. Press, we've got movement. What kind of movement? Bikes. Coming from Phoenix. Fast. Jack's hand went to his gun, then stopped as he saw the patches on the approaching riders. Skull and wings. Iron Wolves colors. That's not an attack, he breathed. That's reinforcement. 20 bikes roared down the highway, pulling into the compound in perfect formation. At their head, a massive man with a gray beard and arms like tree trunks stepped off his Harley and removed his helmet. Jack Thompson. Heard you were stirring up trouble. Jack grinned. Razor, you old bastard. What are you doing here? Got word you were facing down a cartel with a woman and 4 kids to protect. Razor looked at his riders, 20 hardened veterans, each one worth 3 ordinary men in a fight. You think we were going to let you have all the fun? How'd you know? Bear called Phoenix last night. Phoenix called Tucson. Tucson called us. By midnight, every chapter in the state knew what was happening. Razor's grin faded into something harder. A man who beats women and children, who kills his wives when they try to leave, that's not someone we let walk free. Not in Arizona, not anywhere. Victor's got 40 men, and now you've got 32, with more coming from Flagstaff by nightfall. Razor clapped Jack on the shoulder. You protected strangers because it was right. Now we protect you for the same reason. That's how this works, brother. Jack felt something loosen in his chest. For the first time since Victor's phone call, he allowed himself to believe they might actually win this. All right, let's get organized. We've got a journalist inside about to interview the survivors. Victor's going to see it on the news tonight. And when he does, all hell breaks loose. Exactly. So we need to be ready. Razor's eyes gleamed. Brother, we were born ready. The next hour was controlled chaos. Riders securing perimeters, weapons checks, communications established between the compound and allied chapters. Ghost coordinated with Elena's news crew setting up the interview space. Sarah prepared Maria and the children clean clothes, water, reassurance. At noon, the interview began. Maria sat in front of the camera, Isabella beside her. Elena Vasquez asked questions in a calm, professional voice, but her eyes reflected horror as the story emerged. 10 years of beatings. 10 years of control. 10 years of watching her children suffer because she wasn't strong enough to leave. Until the night Victor beat Gabriel so badly, the boy stopped speaking. That was when I knew. Maria said, her voice steady despite the tears. That was when I knew it would never stop. He'd hurt them until there was nothing left to hurt. And then he'd start on the next family, the next wife, the next children. I couldn't let that happen. So you ran. I ran, with nothing but my kids and the clothes on our backs. Our car died 40 miles out. We walked the rest. 8 hours in the desert. I thought we were going to die. But then we found them. She looked toward Jack standing just off camera. We found people willing to fight for us. People who didn't look away. Elena turned to Isabella. And you, sweetheart, you saw things too. Isabella nodded. Her voice was clear, unwavering. I saw Daddy hit Mama with a belt until she couldn't stand. I saw him throw Gabriel against the wall because he asked for water at the wrong time. I saw him come into our rooms at night and stand there watching us sleep, and I knew if we ever tried to leave, he'd kill us all. The camera operator was crying. Elena's hands were shaking, but she kept asking questions. What do you want people to know, Isabella? After everything you've been through? Isabella looked directly into the camera. I want them to know that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they wear suits and drive nice cars and smile for the neighbors. Sometimes they hurt you where nobody can see. And sometimes... Her voice broke just slightly before she caught it. Sometimes the only people who will help you are the ones everyone else is afraid of. But they're not scary. They're angels. They just look different than you'd expect. Elena ended the interview. The crew packed up their equipment. By 3 p.m., the vans were rolling toward Phoenix, carrying footage that would air on the 6 o'clock news. Jack stood on the porch watching them go. Razor joined him. When Victor sees that broadcast, he's going to lose his mind. That's the idea. You're baiting him. I'm forcing his hand. He can't let this stand, not publicly. His whole operation depends on people being too scared to talk. Maria just talked to every television in Arizona. If Victor doesn't respond, he looks weak. If he responds, he walks into a trap. Razor nodded slowly. And if he brings his whole army... Jack looked at the compound, at the 32 bikers now stationed around it, at the brothers who had come from across the state to stand with him. Then we show him what happens when he picks a fight with people who have nothing left to lose. Razor grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. At 6 p.m. they gathered around the television. Maria and the children sat in the back room, Sarah's orders to spare them the stress of watching themselves on screen. But every biker in the compound crowded around as Elena Vasquez's face appeared introducing the segment. What you're about to see is disturbing. It's a story of domestic violence, of systemic failure of a mother and her children who nearly died trying to escape a man the system refused to stop. But it's also a story of unexpected heroes, a motorcycle club that chose to protect strangers when nobody else would. The interview played. Maria's words. Isabella's testimony. Photos of the bruises the belt marks the evidence of years of torture. And then footage of Victor Santos. His expensive suits. His charming smile. His connections to powerful people across the state. Victor Santos, Elena narrated, is not just an abuser. According to sources within law enforcement, he's connected to multiple drug cartels, has at least 2 corrupt police officers on his payroll, and may be responsible for the disappearances of 2 previous wives and a stepdaughter. But tonight, his victims are speaking out, and they have an army of unlikely protectors standing between them and a monster. The segment ended. Phones started ringing immediately. Ghost answered his, listened. His face went pale. Jack, we've got a problem. What kind of problem? Victor just left his compound. Every man he's got is with him. They're armed for war. How long until they get here? 45 minutes, maybe less. Jack looked around the room, at his brothers, at the reinforcements from Phoenix, at everything they'd built in the last 24 hours. Then we've got 45 minutes to get ready. Everyone positions. This is it. Razor cracked his knuckles. Finally, let's show this bastard what happens when he picks on the wrong family. The compound erupted into motion. Weapons distributed, defensive positions, reinforced escape routes for the children confirmed and reconfirmed. And somewhere on the highway, a convoy of death rolled toward them through the gathering dusk. 43 minutes. That's how long they had before the headlights appeared on the horizon. A snake of vehicles stretching across the desert highway, dust clouds rising behind them like the breath of something ancient and hungry. Jack counted the vehicles through binoculars. 22 this time, more than before. He called in reinforcements, Razor muttered beside him. So did we. Yeah, but his reinforcements have automatic weapons and nothing to lose. So do we. Razor almost smiled. Fair point. Bear's voice crackled over the radio. Press, I've got movement on the south perimeter. 3 vehicles broke off from the main convoy. They're trying to flank us. Handle it. Copy. Jack lowered the binoculars. The main convoy had stopped half a mile out, engines idling, headlights cutting through the gathering dusk like hungry eyes. He's waiting, Ghost said. For what? For us to make a mistake, or for his flanking team to get in position. Ghost checked his phone. Elena's broadcast is playing on every channel. Social media is exploding. Half the state is watching this in real time. Good. The more witnesses, the harder it is for Victor to bury this. Unless he buries us first. A single vehicle broke from the convoy, the black Mercedes rolling forward slowly. It stopped 100 yards from the clubhouse, and Victor Santos stepped out. He was alone this time. No bodyguards, no Deputy Collins, just a man in an expensive suit standing in the desert dust with his hands raised. Jack Thompson, his voice carried across the distance. I want to talk. Jack looked at Razor. Cover me. Like hell. You're not going out there alone. He came alone. He's got 60 men with guns behind him, and I've got 32. Jack started walking. If he wanted me dead, he'd have opened fire already. He wants something else. What? That's what I'm about to find out. Jack walked out to meet Victor. 50 yards, 40, 30, close enough to see the rage barely contained behind those cold eyes. You've been busy, Victor said. So have you. That interview, my wife and daughter telling lies to the whole state. Victor's jaw tightened. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've done what should have been done years ago. Someone finally listened to them. They're liars. Maria is mentally ill. Isabella has been coached to say those things. None of it is true. The bruises are true. The medical records are true. The 2 wives who disappeared before Maria, those are true too. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Fear. just for a moment. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Rebecca Martinez disappeared in 2015 after filing for divorce. Karen Wells disappeared in 2018 with her teenage daughter after trying to leave you. Jack stepped closer. Where are they, Victor? Where did you put the bodies? You're insane. The FBI doesn't think so. They've been investigating you for 2 years. They just didn't have enough evidence. Now they do. Victor's composure cracked. What evidence? Maria's testimony, Isabella's testimony, and something else. Jack smiled. Your laptop, the one you keep with you everywhere. Isabella knew the password. Turns out you weren't as careful as you thought. You don't have my laptop. Not yet. But you brought it with you, didn't you? You always do. And when this is over, we're going to have it, along with everything on it. Victor's face went white, then red, then something beyond color, pure, concentrated hatred. You think you've won? You think some interviews and accusations are going to bring me down? He laughed. Harsh. Ugly. I've survived worse. I've buried better. And I'm going to bury you too. You and everyone in that clubhouse. You're welcome to try. I'm not going to try. I'm going to succeed. Because that's what I do. Victor pulled out his phone. You want to know something, biker? I've got something you don't. What's that? Leverage. He pressed a button on his phone. A moment later, Jack's radio crackled. Bear's voice. Strained. Wrong. Press. We've got a problem. The flanking team, they didn't come for us. They went around. They're at the tunnel exit. Jack's blood went cold. The children, he breathed. Victor smiled. That's right. While you were out here posturing, my men found your little escape route. They've got your precious tunnel surrounded. One call from me and they go in. They take Maria and the children. And there's nothing you can do to stop them. Jack's hand went to his gun. Victor wagged a finger. You shoot me, my men have orders to move immediately. Is that what you want? Your little speech about protecting the innocent and then you get them killed because you couldn't control your temper. What do you want? What I've always wanted, my family, returned to me. Now. They're not your family. They're your victims. Semantics. Victor checked his watch. You've got 2 minutes to bring them out. After that, my men go in, and they won't be gentle. Jack's mind raced. The tunnel. Sarah was supposed to be guarding it. The children were supposed to be safe. How did you find it? I've had men watching this compound for months. Did you think I wouldn't know about the old smuggling tunnel? Did you think I wouldn't plan for every possibility? Victor's smile widened. I always win, Thompson. Always. Because I'm smarter, richer, and more willing to do what's necessary. You're just a biker playing hero. This isn't a movie. The good guys don't always win. Maybe not, but the bad guys always lose, eventually. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Jack keyed his radio. Bear, status. Static. Then, press, they've got us pinned. 6 men heavily armed. Sarah's with the kids, but she can't hold them off forever. Hold position. Don't engage unless they move in. Copy, but press hurry. Victor's smile never wavered. 1 minute. Jack looked at him. Really looked. This was the man who had beaten Maria for a decade, who had terrorized children, who had killed at least 2 women and gotten away with it. This was evil in an expensive suit standing in the desert dust and demanding surrender. No. Victor blinked. Excuse me. I said no. You're not getting them. Not today. Not ever. You're willing to let children die for your pride. I'm willing to bet that you're bluffing. Bluffing? Victor's face twisted. I don't bluff. Sure you do. Your whole life is a bluff. The successful businessman, the loving husband, the respectable citizen. Jack shook his head. You're a fraud, Victor. A monster pretending to be human. And monsters always make mistakes. What mistake? You assumed we were stupid. Jack raised his voice. Now. The desert exploded. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions at once. Not from the clubhouse, from the hills surrounding the convoy. riders who had circled around during the standoff, positioning themselves where Victor's men couldn't see. Victor dove for his car, but Jack was faster. He tackled him into the dirt, pinning him down as bullets whined overhead. "Get off me!" "Not a chance." Victor struggled, but Jack had 50 pounds on him and decades of brawling experience. He flipped Victor onto his stomach and zip-tied his wrists behind his back. "You're done. My men will kill you. Your men are busy." It was chaos. Cartel soldiers scrambling for cover as bikers opened fire from elevated positions. Vehicles trying to reverse, crashing into each other. Screams and gunshots and the roar of motorcycle engines as reinforcements poured in from the north, the Flagstaff chapter arriving just in time. Razor's voice came over the radio. "Convoy's breaking. They're running. Don't let them regroup. Push them back." "Copy that." Jack hauled Victor to his feet and started dragging him toward the clubhouse. Victor fought every step, twisting, spitting, threatening. "You have no idea what you've done. My people will hunt you forever. They'll burn everything you love." "Shut up. You think this ends anything? There are more where they came from. The cartels don't forget. Neither do we." They reached the porch just as Ghost came running out. "Jack, the Tunnel Bears team engaged. Sarah's holding, but she's pinned. Get me down there." "What about him?" Ghost pointed at Victor. "Tie him to a chair. Don't let him out of your sight." Jack ran. Through the clubhouse, down the hidden stairs into the tunnel. He could hear gunfire ahead, sharp bursts echoing off concrete walls. Bear status. 3 down, 3 still fighting. They're trying to breach the door. Jack rounded a corner and saw it. 3 cartel soldiers crouched behind an overturned table, firing at a reinforced door. Behind that door, Maria and the children waited. Behind that door, Sarah was making her last stand. Jack didn't hesitate. He came up behind the first soldier and slammed his gun into the back of the man's head. The second turned, but Jack was already firing 2 shots center mass. The third threw down his weapon and raised his hands. "Don't shoot. Don't. On the ground. Now." The man dropped. Jack zip-tied him and kicked away his weapon. Bear emerged from behind a support pillar, blood running down his arm. "Took one in the shoulder. I'll live. Get him secure. I'm getting the family." Jack approached the reinforced door and knocked 3 times. Pause. 2 times. Pause. 1 time. The code they'd established. The door cracked open. Sarah's face appeared gun ready. "Jack, thank God. Everyone okay?" Scared but alive, she opened the door wider. Maria sat in the corner. Sophie in her lap, Lily pressed against her side. Gabriel stood in front of them holding a pipe wrench, ready to fight despite being 6 years old. And Isabella. Isabella stood by the door, a knife in her hand, eyes hard. "Is it over?" she asked. "Almost. We need to move. Now." They filed out of the tunnel, following Jack through the dim corridor. Maria carried Sophie. Sarah carried Lily, and Jack kept Gabriel and Isabella close. "Where's my father?" Isabella asked. "Secured. He's not going anywhere." "I want to see him." "That's not a good idea." "I want him to see me. I want him to know that we won." Isabella's voice was steady. Too steady for an 8-year-old. "I want him to know that he didn't break us." Jack looked at her, at the knife still clutched in her hand, at the determination in her eyes. "Okay, but we do it my way. And you stay behind me." They emerged into the clubhouse. Victor was tied to a chair in the center of the room, Ghost standing guard. His expensive suit was torn and dirty, his face bruised from the tackle. When he saw Maria and the children, something changed in his expression. Not defeat, not remorse, rage. Pure, uncontrolled rage. "Maria." His voice was a serpent's hiss. "Maria, look at me." Maria froze. "Look at me when I'm talking to you. Don't listen to him." Jack stepped between them. "He can't hurt you anymore. She's my wife. Those are my children. You have no right." "You lost that right when you put your hands on them." Jack's voice was ice. "When you beat them. When you terrorized them. When you hurt a 6-year-old boy so badly he stopped speaking." "I was disciplining. You were torturing." Victor's eyes found Gabriel still clutching the wrench. "Boy, come here. Come to Daddy." Gabriel didn't move. "I said come here." Gabriel stepped back, pressing against Maria's leg. "You see," Victor sneered. "You see what you've done? You've turned my own children against me, poisoned them with your lies." Isabella walked forward. "Isabella." Maria reached for her. "Don't." But Isabella kept walking until she stood 3 feet from her father, looking up at him, holding the knife at her side. "You hit Mama," she said quietly. "Isabella, you hit her, and you hurt her, and you made her cry every night. I heard it through the walls. I heard you call her names. I heard you tell her she was worthless, that nobody would ever help her, that she deserved everything you did. Isabella, I heard you hurt Gabriel. I heard him screaming. I heard you tell him that if he ever told anyone, you'd kill us all." Her voice cracked slightly, then steadied. "I was so scared every single day. I was so scared that you would kill us, that you would hurt Sophie or Lily or Gabriel or Mama. I didn't sleep because I was watching the door, waiting for you to come in and hurt us more." Victor's face contorted. "Everything I did was for this family." "You don't have a family." Isabella's chin lifted. "Not anymore. We're not yours. We're ours. And we're never ever going back to you." She turned her back on him and walked to Maria. Victor screamed, wordless, primal. He thrashed against his bonds chair, rocking veins bulging in his neck. "This isn't over. You hear me? This will never be over. I'll find you wherever you go. Victor Santos." A new voice. From the doorway. Everyone turned. 2 men in suits stood there. Badges held up. FBI written in bold letters. "Victor Santos, you're under arrest for drug trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and violation of federal racketeering statutes." Victor's face went slack. "What? We've been building this case for 2 years. The lead agent stepped forward. "Your laptop was very helpful. Thank you for bringing it with you." Ghost held up the laptop taken from Victor's Mercedes during the chaos. "We've got everything," Ghost said. "Bank records, communications, photos, and something else, coordinates. 3 sets of GPS coordinates buried in encrypted files." Victor went pale, really pale. "We've already sent teams to those locations," the agent continued. "I'm guessing we're going to find Rebecca Martinez and Karen Wells, and Karen's daughter, Chelsea." "I want a lawyer." "You'll get one. But between the evidence on this laptop and the testimony we're going to collect, you're looking at multiple life sentences." The agent pulled out handcuffs. "Stand up." "I can't." I'm tied to a chair." "Someone untie him." Jack cut the zip ties. Victor stood slowly, rubbing his wrists. And then he lunged. He grabbed Isabella, wrapping an arm around her throat, pulling the knife from her hand and pressing it to her neck. "Nobody move!" The room froze. "I'll kill her. I swear to God, I'll kill her," Maria screamed. "Isabella, shut up! Everybody shut up!" Victor backed toward the door, dragging Isabella with him. "Here's how this is going to work. I'm walking out of here. I'm taking my daughter, and if anyone tries to stop me..." He pressed the knife harder. A thin line of blood appeared on Isabella's neck. "Daddy," Isabella whispered, "please. You did this. You and your mother and your lies. You brought this on yourself." Jack raised his hands. "Victor, think about what you're doing. I'm surviving. That's what I do. I survive. You kill her, you're done. No escape. No lawyers. No deals. You kill a child on camera." Jack pointed to Ghost's phone, still recording. "And there's nowhere on earth you can hide. Then I die on my terms, not theirs. Is that what you want? To die, to let it all end here?" Victor hesitated. Isabella looked at Jack. Her eyes weren't filled with fear. They were filled with trust. She trusted him. Even now, even with a knife at her throat. Jack took a slow step forward. "Victor, let her go. This doesn't have to end in blood. It already has. You made sure of that. No, you made sure of that. Every choice you made, every person you hurt brought you here. But this is where it stops. This is where you decide what kind of man you really are. I know what kind of man I am. So do I. You're a coward, a bully, someone who only feels strong when he's hurting people weaker than him. Jack took another step. But Isabella isn't weak. Maria isn't weak. They survived you. They beat you. The only question now is whether you have the courage to face what you did or whether you're going to hide behind a child. Victor's hand trembled. Put down the knife, Victor. Face this like a man. I'm not going to prison. You're going somewhere. The only choice is whether you walk there or get carried. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Isabella did something nobody expected. She went limp, complete dead weight dropping straight down. Victor's grip slipped the knife sliding away from her throat. Chains moved like lightning. He tackled Victor from the side, slamming him into the floor. The knife skittered away. Victor screamed, fighting, biting, clawing. But Chains was bigger, stronger, angrier. You ever touch a kid again? Chains growled, pinning Victor's face to the floor. And I'll break every bone in your body. Then I'll start over. The FBI agents moved in, cuffing Victor properly this time. He was still screaming as they dragged him out, threats, curses, promises of revenge. Nobody listened. Maria ran to Isabella, gathering her in her arms. Mija, are you okay? Let me see. I'm fine, Mama. Isabella touched the cut on her neck. It's not deep. He could have killed you. But he didn't. He never would have. Isabella looked at her mother with those ancient eyes. He's weak, Mama. He was always weak. He just made us think he was strong. Maria broke down sobbing, holding her daughter so tight it must have hurt. Gabriel appeared at Isabella's side. He reached out and touched her hand. You were brave, he said. Isabella stared at him. Gabriel, you talked. You were brave, like the bikers. Maria's sobs intensified, but now there was laughter mixed in. Relief, joy. Gabriel was talking. Isabella was alive. Victor was gone. Jack watched from across the room, feeling something unknot in his chest. Razor walked up beside him. Hell of a thing. Yeah. You really thought she was going to get hurt. I thought there was a chance. But you kept talking anyway. Had to buy time. Had to hope she'd do something smart. Jack shook his head. Kid's 8 years old, and she handled that better than most soldiers I've known. She's got good blood. She's got a good mother. Sarah appeared, medical kit in hand. I need to check that cut. Isabella let herself be examined, wincing slightly as Sarah cleaned the wound. It's shallow, Sarah confirmed. Won't even scar. Good. Isabella looked at Jack. Is it really over? The dangerous part is, Victor's going to federal prison. He's never getting out. What about his men? The cartel? They've got bigger problems than your family now. FBI is going to spend the next year rounding them up. By the time they're done, there won't be anyone left to cause trouble. So we're safe. Jack crouched down to her level. Yeah, kid, you're safe. Really safe. For the first time in your life. Isabella's lower lip trembled, the first crack in her armor since she'd faced down her father. I don't know what that feels like. That's okay. You've got time to learn. She threw her arms around his neck and held on. A little girl finally allowed to be a little girl. Jack hugged her back, feeling tears prick his own eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for keeping your promises. Always. Outside, the sun was setting. The desert sky blazed orange and red and purple colors so bright they seemed impossible. Victor's convoy had been scattered, captured, or fled. The FBI was processing the scene. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting everything to a captivated state. Maria walked out onto the porch. Sophie in her arms, Gabriel and Lily at her side. She stood there watching the sunset, breathing free air for the first time in years. Jack joined her. What happens now? She asked. Now you heal. Now you rebuild. Now you live the life you should have been living all along. I don't even know what that looks like. You'll figure it out. And you won't be alone. Maria looked at him. Why did you do all this? Really, we're strangers. We showed up at your door and you went to war for us. Why? Jack was quiet for a long moment. 15 years ago, I lost my daughter. Her boyfriend beat her to death in a parking lot, and I got there too late to save her. I spent years after that wondering what I could have done different. What if I'd seen the signs? What if I'd pushed harder when she said she was fine? What if I'd just shown up? He looked at Maria. You showed up at my door, you and 4 kids who'd walked through hell to get here. And I thought, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for. The chance to save someone when it actually matters. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I'm glad we found you. I'm glad you found me too. And they stood together, watching the sky fade from fire to soft purple. Behind them, the clubhouse buzzed with activity. Brothers celebrating FBI agents taking statements, journalists filming everything for the morning news. But for one moment, there was peace. Isabella appeared at Jack's other side. She slipped her hand into his small fingers, intertwining with his calloused ones. Uncle Jack. He looked down at her. Uncle Jack. Is that okay? I've never had an uncle before. Something caught in his throat. Yeah, kid. That's okay. Good. She squeezed his hand. Because I think you're the best uncle in the whole world. Jack didn't trust himself to speak, so he just squeezed back. And for the first time in 15 years, he didn't feel like he'd failed his daughter. He felt like he'd finally made her proud. 3 weeks passed like water through open fingers. The FBI worked around the clock, unraveling Victor Santos's empire one thread at a time. What they found turned stomachs across 3 federal agencies. The coordinates on his laptop led to a remote canyon 40 miles north of Phoenix. 3 bodies. Rebecca Martinez, Karen Wells. Chelsea Wells, just 16 years old when she died. Victor had kept trophies, photographs, jewelry, a lock of Chelsea's hair in a sealed envelope. When the news broke, Maria couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. She'd lived with a serial killer, slept next to him, raised children under his roof. The horror of it was too much to process. Isabella brought her soup on the second day. Mama, you need to eat. I can't. You have to. Sophie needs you. Gabriel needs you. Lily needs you. Isabella sat on the edge of the bed. I need you. Maria looked at her daughter through swollen eyes. How are you so strong? I'm not strong. I'm just tired of being scared. Isabella set down the soup. We survived, Mama. We got out. That's more than Rebecca or Karen or Chelsea ever got. We owe it to them to keep living. Maria closed her eyes. Tears leaked down her cheeks. When did you grow up so fast? I didn't have a choice. Maria pulled her daughter close and held her for a long time. When she finally let go, she reached for the soup. Okay, mija. You're right. We keep living. Isabella smiled. It was small, hesitant, but real. That's my mama. The clubhouse became a strange kind of home in those weeks. Maria and the children had their own space, the back room converted into something resembling an apartment. Sarah checked on them daily, monitoring the children's physical and psychological recovery. Gabriel was speaking more now. Short sentences at first, then longer ones. He still flinched at loud noises, still watched doors like he expected monsters to walk through them. But he was emerging, slowly, carefully. Whiskey became his shadow. The grizzled old biker with the drinking problem he'd finally beaten. He understood broken children. He'd been one himself. You know what helped me, Whiskey told Gabriel one afternoon. What? Finding something to fix. When everything feels wrong, you find something small and you make it right. He held up an old pocket watch, gears exposed. This was my grandfather's. Hasn't worked in 20 years. Want to help me fix it? Gabriel studied the watch. I don't know how. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. They spent hours at that workbench, grandfather and not grandson, taking apart watches and putting them back together. Gabriel's hands were small but steady. He had a gift for seeing how things fit together. On the third week, he fixed his first watch. Whiskey, whiskey, look. The old biker looked at the ticking timepiece and felt tears prick his eyes. Well, I'll be damned, you did it. I fixed it. I actually fixed it. Yeah, kid, you did. Whiskey ruffled his hair. You know what this means. What? Means you can fix anything. Watches, engines, hearts. He tapped Gabriel's chest. Including your own. Gabriel threw his arms around Whiskey's waist and held on tight. The old man hugged back, weathered face, crumpling with emotion he rarely let himself feel. Maria watched from across the room, hand pressed to her mouth. He's going to be okay, Sarah said quietly beside her. You think so? I know so. Kids are resilient, especially when they have people who love them. I love them. I always loved them. I know, but now you can show it without being punished for it. That changes everything. The FBI wanted Gabriel's testimony. Not in person, they weren't monsters, but through a child psychologist carefully recorded with Sarah and Maria present. Gabriel knew things. He'd seen things. Victor had been careless around the boy, assuming his silence meant he was stupid or oblivious. Gabriel was neither. He used to make phone calls late at night, Gabriel told the psychologist. In his office. He thought we were sleeping. But I wasn't sleeping. I listened through the door. What did you hear? Names, places, numbers. Gabriel's small face scrunched in concentration. He said, the canyon a lot. He said, our friends in Mexico need more shipments. He said if anyone talked, they'd end up like the others. The others, the ones in the ground. Gabriel's voice dropped to a whisper. He said that once. They're in the ground where they belong, and you'll be too if you don't shut up. He was talking to a man on the phone. The man was scared. I could hear it in his voice. The psychologist exchanged looks with the FBI agent, observing through the glass. Gabriel, you're being very brave. Can you remember anything else? He had a book, a little black book. He kept it hidden, but I found it once. It had names and numbers and drawings. What kind of drawings? Gabriel went pale. Maps, with X's on them. Like treasure maps, but he shuddered. Not treasure. The black book was recovered from a safety deposit box in Tucson. It contained detailed records of Victor's activities spanning 15 years. Not just the 3 known victims, 12 more. 12 human beings buried in the Arizona desert, their families never knowing what happened to them. When Elena Vasquez broke that story, it became national news. Maria's phone rang constantly. Interview requests, book deals, movie inquiries. She ignored all of them. She wasn't a story. She wasn't content. She was a survivor trying to remember how to live. But she couldn't ignore the call from Phoenix. Mrs. Martinez, a woman's voice professional but warm. My name is Angela Chen. I'm with the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I was hoping we could talk. Maria almost hung up. More press, more vultures. I'm not interested in interviews. This isn't an interview. This is a job offer. Maria blinked. What? We've followed your story, what you went through, how you survived. We run a network of safe houses for domestic violence survivors. We're looking for someone who understands. Someone who's been there. Angela paused. Someone like you. I'm not qualified. I don't have a degree. You have something more valuable than any degree. You have experience. You have strength. And you have credibility. When a woman walks into one of our shelters, terrified and broken, and she sees someone who's been through the same thing, who came out the other side, that means more than any diploma. Maria was silent for a long moment. I'll think about it. Take your time. The offer stands. Maria hung up and stared at the phone. Jack found her on the porch an hour later, still staring. Everything okay? Someone offered me a job. That's good, isn't it? Working with abuse survivors, helping them escape, helping them rebuild. Maria shook her head slowly. I can barely help myself. How am I supposed to help anyone else? Jack sat down beside her. You know what I've learned in 30 years of writing? What? The best teachers are the ones who remember what it was like to be students. The best leaders are the ones who remember what it was like to follow. He looked at her. The best helpers are the ones who remember what it was like to need help. You really think I can do this? I think you already have. You helped yourself. You helped your children. You walked 40 miles through the desert rather than spend one more day as a victim. He shrugged. Sounds like you're already qualified. Maria let out a shaky breath. I'm scared. Good. Means you're taking it seriously. What if I fail? What if you succeed? She looked at him. This man who had risked everything for strangers, who had given her family a second chance at life. He believed in her. Really believed. Maybe it was time to believe in herself. Okay, she said. I'll call them back. Isabella started school 2 weeks later. Not just any school, a small private academy with specialized programs for children who'd experienced trauma. The Iron Wolves paid the tuition. Maria tried to refuse. Jack wouldn't hear it. It's an investment, he told her. That kid's going to change the world someday. Least we can do is make sure she has the tools. Isabella was nervous that first morning. She'd barely attended regular school while living with Victor. He'd kept her home more often than not, using her as an unpaid nanny for her siblings. She was behind academically, socially, emotionally. But she walked into that building with her chin up. What if they don't like me? She'd asked Maria before leaving. Then they're idiots. Mama, I'm serious. You're smart, you're brave, and you've survived more than most adults ever will. Anyone who can't see how amazing you are isn't worth your time. Isabella smiled. You sound like Uncle Jack. Maybe he's rubbing off on me. That's a good thing. By the end of the first week, Isabella had made 2 friends. By the end of the month, she was at grade level in reading and math. By the end of the second month, she was ahead of her class. She's remarkable, her teacher told Maria at the parent conference. Not just academically, emotionally. She handles setbacks better than most adults. When something goes wrong, she just figures it out, adapts, moves forward. She's had practice. I can see that. The teacher leaned forward. Mrs. Martinez, I've been teaching for 20 years. I've seen gifted children before. Isabella isn't just gifted, she's extraordinary. With the right support, there's nothing she can't achieve. Maria started crying. I'm sorry. She fumbled for tissues. I spent so long believing we'd never escape, that he'd destroy her before she ever had a chance. And now she's thriving. And that's because of you. Because you got her out. Because you gave her the chance to become who she's meant to be. The teacher handed her a tissue box and waited while Maria composed herself. We're recommending her for the accelerated program next year. If she keeps performing at this level, she could skip a grade, maybe 2. She'd want that. She wants to go to college, law school. Law school. She says she's going to fight for families like ours, people the system fails. Maria smiled through her tears. She's 8 years old and she already knows exactly who she wants to be. Some children are born knowing. Isabella is one of them. Maria left the conference floating. For the first time, she let herself imagine the future, really imagine it. Isabella in cap and gown. Isabella in a courtroom. Isabella standing up for people who had no one else. Her daughter was going to change the world. Victor's trial came 4 months after his arrest. The evidence was overwhelming. The laptop files, the black book, the bodies in the canyon. Gabriel's testimony carefully recorded and presented by expert witnesses. Maria's testimony delivered in person. She'd wanted to face him, needed to. Are you sure about this? Jack asked the night before. I'm sure. You don't have to. The case is solid without you. I know, but this isn't about the case. This is about me. Maria straightened her shoulders. For 10 years I was silent. He made me silent. He told me what to say, what to think, how to feel. If I spoke wrong, he hit me. If I cried wrong, he hit me. If I existed wrong, he hit me. And now, she met Jack's eyes. Now I get to speak. In front of a judge, a jury cameras the whole world. I get to tell my story in my own words, and he has to sit there and listen. That's not nothing. No, it's not. She took the stand at 10:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. Victor sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit looking diminished, pathetic. He'd lost weight. His hair had gone gray at the temples. The monster who'd terrorized her for a decade was just a small, bitter man facing the consequences of his cruelty. Maria looked at him once. Then she looked away and never looked at him again. "Mrs. Martinez," the prosecutor began, "can you describe the first time Victor Santos physically assaulted you?" "It was 3 months after we were married. I'd made dinner roast chicken and it was overcooked. The chicken was dry." Maria's voice was steady. He didn't say anything at first, just ate in silence. Then he picked up the plate and threw it at my head. What happened next? He beat me. With his fists, his belt, whatever he could reach. When he was done, he sat back down at the table and said, "Next time, cook it right." The courtroom was silent. And did the violence continue after that? For 10 years, thousands of beatings, thousands of threats. I lost count of the broken bones, the black eyes, the nights I couldn't sleep because my ribs hurt too much. Maria paused. But the physical pain wasn't the worst part. What was? The fear, the constant grinding fear, every footstep in the hall, every car in the driveway, every time he raised his voice. I lived in terror for 10 years. My children lived in terror. That's what he wanted. He wanted us afraid because afraid people don't leave. Afraid people do what they're told. What finally made you decide to leave? Maria's composure flickered, just for a moment. He hurt Gabriel, my son, 6 years old. Gabriel asked for a glass of water at the wrong time, and Victor threw him against a wall so hard he stopped speaking. Wouldn't talk for weeks. Wouldn't even cry. Her voice hardened. That was when I knew it would never stop. He'd hurt us until there was nothing left to hurt. And then he'd find new victims. New wives, new children to destroy. So you ran. I ran, with nothing but my kids and the clothes we were wearing. Our car died in the desert. We walked for 8 hours in the heat. My children were dying of dehydration. I was dying. But I kept walking because anything was better than going back to him. Death was better than going back to him. And you found the Iron Wolves MC. They found us. I collapsed at their door and they saved us. Strangers, bikers, people everyone else was afraid of. Maria's voice cracked. They were the only ones who would help. The police didn't help. The courts didn't help. The system didn't help. Just those men in leather jackets who saw a woman with 4 dying children and decided to fight for us. Objection. Victor's lawyer stood. The witness is editorializing. Overruled. Continue, Mrs. Martinez. Maria looked directly at the jury. Victor Santos is not a man. He's a monster who hides behind the face of a man. He killed at least 15 people. He tortured women and children for decades. And he did it while smiling for the cameras, while shaking hands with politicians, while pretending to be a respectable businessman. Her voice rose. The system failed to stop him. The system protected him. If it weren't for a motorcycle club in the middle of the desert, I'd be dead. My children would be dead, and Victor would be looking for his next victim. She turned and looked at Victor for the first time since taking the stand. But I'm not dead. I'm alive. My children are alive. And you, her finger stabbed toward him, you are going to spend the rest of your miserable life in a cage knowing that we beat you. We survived you. We won. Victor's face contorted with rage. He lunged forward, restrained by the bailiffs. You're nothing, he screamed. You're nobody. Without me. Your order. The judge banged his gavel. Remove the defendant. Victor was dragged out, still screaming. Maria sat perfectly still, watching him go. No further questions, the prosecutor said quietly. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, kidnapping, drug trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, domestic assault. Sentence 5, consecutive life terms. No possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Maria didn't react. She just closed her eyes and breathed. It was over. Finally, truly over. Jack was waiting outside the courthouse. So were the brothers, dozens of them forming a corridor through the crowd of reporters and cameras. Maria walked through them, children at her side, head held high. "Mrs. Martinez, Mrs. Martinez. How do you feel about the verdict?" She stopped, turned to face the cameras. "I feel grateful. Grateful to be alive. Grateful that my children are safe. Grateful to the men and women who fought for us when no one else would." She paused. "But I also feel angry. Angry that it took this long. Angry that 15 people had to die before anyone listened. Angry that the system that was supposed to protect us failed so completely. What's next for you and your family?" Maria looked at her children, at Isabella standing tall, at Gabriel clutching Whiskey's hand, at Lily perched on Bear's shoulders, at Sophie asleep in Sarah's arms. "We're going to live. We're going to heal. We're going to become the family we always should have been." She smiled. "And we're going to help other survivors do the same. Because nobody should have to go through what we went through. Nobody should feel as alone as we felt. And if I can help even one woman, one family find the courage to leave, then everything we suffered will have meant something." The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But Maria was done talking. She walked to Jack and hugged him hard. "Thank you," she whispered. "You did this, not me. We did it together." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "All of us." Isabella tugged on Jack's sleeve. "Uncle Jack." "Yeah, kid. Can we go home now?" Jack looked at the courthouse, at the cameras, at the crowd of supporters who'd gathered to watch justice finally be served. Then he looked at Maria, at the children, at the family he'd helped save. "Yeah," he said. "Let's go home." They rode back to the compound in a convoy of bikes and cars, engines roaring through the desert afternoon. People came out of stores and houses to watch them pass. Some waved, some cheered, some just stood in silence, bearing witness. The town had changed. The Iron Wolves had changed. Everything had changed. And it was only the beginning. That night, after the children were asleep, Maria sat on the porch with Jack. "I found a place," she said. "A house. Small, but it's ours. Well, it will be ours. Once I start the job and save up for a deposit." "Where?" "Phoenix. Close to the coalition office. Close to a good school for the kids." She hesitated. "Far from here." "Phoenix isn't that far." "It's not here. It's not this." She gestured at the compound. "You've become family. All of you. Leaving feels necessary." Maria looked at him. "What? You need to build your own life, your own space. Somewhere that's yours, not borrowed, not temporary. Somewhere you can put down roots." Jack smiled. "That doesn't mean we stop being family. It just means family lives in different houses. We'd still everything. Holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday when the kids miss their uncles. Family doesn't end because of distance. It just gets more creative about staying together." Maria let out a shaky breath. "I was so scared to tell you." "Scared of what? You think I'd try to stop you? I thought you might be disappointed." Jack shook his head. "Maria, from the moment you knocked on our door, all I've wanted is for you and those kids to have a real life. A safe life. A happy life. If that's in Phoenix, then Phoenix is where you should be." "You really mean that?" "Every word." Maria leaned her head against his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge over the desert. "I'm going to miss this place." "It'll miss you too. But it'll also be here whenever you need it." Jack put an arm around her shoulders. "That's the thing about home. The real kind, not the building. It doesn't go anywhere. It just waits. Like family. Exactly like family." A week later, Maria signed the lease on a small house in a quiet Phoenix neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, a tiny backyard, a garage she'd convert into a play space for the kids. Moving day arrived faster than anyone expected. The entire club showed up to help. 30 bikers hauling boxes, assembling furniture, arguing about where the couch should go. Gabriel directed traffic like a tiny general, his voice strong and clear. No, that goes in Isabella's room. The blue one goes to Lily and Sophie's room. Whiskey, you have the living room stuff. Who made you the boss? Chains grumbled, carrying a dresser twice his size. I'm the only one who can read Mama's labels. Fair enough. Isabella stood in the doorway of her new room, looking at the empty space that would become hers. Just hers. For the first time in her life. Hey, Jack appeared behind her. What do you think? It's perfect. It's empty. For now. Isabella turned to face him. But it won't stay empty. I'm going to fill it with books and awards and pictures of all of us together. I'm going to cover the walls with proof that we survived. That we made it. That's a good plan. I know. She hugged him suddenly, fiercely. Thank you, Uncle Jack. For everything. For being there when we knocked on your door. For not turning us away. For fighting for us when no one else would. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Because you gave me something I never had before. What's that? Hope. Isabella pulled back, eyes shining. I never thought we'd escape. I never thought we'd be safe. I thought we'd spend our whole lives running, hiding, afraid. And then you showed me that there are people in this world who fight for strangers, who stand up when everyone else sits down, who keep their promises even when it costs everything. She took a deep breath. I'm going to be like that someday. I'm going to fight for people like us. People the system fails. And when I do, I'm going to remember this. All of it. Every moment. Every kindness. Every time you chose to help when you didn't have to. Jack's throat tightened. You're going to be something special, kid. I know, she grinned. But you helped. Don't forget that. I won't. Good. She punched his arm lightly. Now come on. Gabriel says the living room stuff is going to the wrong place, and Chains is threatening to quit. They walked out together, leaving the empty room behind. It wouldn't stay empty for long. Nothing would. Maria started her new job 2 days later. First day, she walked into the coalition office shaking like a leaf. By lunch, she'd connected with 3 survivors. By the end of the week, she'd helped a woman escape an abusive husband and relocated to a safe house. You're a natural, Angela told her. I've never seen someone connect so quickly. I'm just telling them the truth, that it's possible to get out, that there are people who will help, that the fear doesn't have to be forever. That's exactly what they need to hear. Maria smiled. For the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Isabella thrived in school. Gabriel started laughing again, real full-belly laughs that made everyone around him smile. Lily made friends. Sophie said her first complete sentence, "Love you, Mama." Maria cried for an hour after that one. The nightmares faded. The flinching stopped. The constant vigilance, the watching of doors and windows, the terror that Victor would somehow appear, it all began to fade. They were healing. They were living. They were finally, truly free. 6 months after the trial, the letter arrived. Maria almost threw it away. Official-looking envelopes usually meant bills, legal documents, reminders of a past she was trying to leave behind. But something made her pause. The seal in the corner. The weight of the paper. She opened it and dropped the envelope. Mama, Isabella looked up from her homework. What's wrong? Maria couldn't speak. She just handed over the letter. Isabella read it once, twice, 3 times. The Governor's Humanitarian Award. She breathed. Mama, they want to give the Iron Wolves the Governor's Humanitarian Award at the state capitol, and they want us to present it. I know. They want me to speak. I know. Isabella set down the letter. Her hands were shaking. I've never spoken in front of more than 30 people. This is thousands, maybe millions if it's on TV. You don't have to do it. Yes, I do. Isabella's chin lifted, that stubborn, determined look Maria had come to know so well. Someone has to tell the truth about what happened, about who they really are, about what they did for us. She picked up the letter again. I'm going to write the best speech anyone's ever heard. I'm going to make everyone understand. Understand what? That angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have motorcycles. Maria pulled her daughter into a hug and held on tight. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. Isabella wrote draft after draft, filling notebook after notebook with crossed-out lines and frustrated scribbles. She interviewed every member of the club, recording their stories, their motivations, their memories of those first terrifying hours. She talked to Chains about why a man everyone feared had been so gentle with Gabriel. Kid reminded me of myself, Chains admitted. I stopped talking too once, when I was about his age. Took years to find my voice again. I saw him and I thought, no, not this one. This one's gonna talk. This one's gonna be okay. She talked to Whiskey about the watches. My grandfather was the only one who ever believed in me, Whiskey said, eyes distant. Everyone else saw a screw-up, a drunk, a waste of space, but he saw something worth saving. I wanted Gabriel to know that feeling, the feeling of someone seeing you, really seeing you when everyone else looks away. She talked to Sarah about the first moments. I've seen a lot of death. War does that to you. But when I looked at Sophie so small, so still, I thought, not this one. Not today. Some people you save because it's your job. Others you save because something in your soul won't let them go. Sarah smiled through tears. Sophie was the second kind, and she talked to Jack. That conversation took the longest. Why did you help us? Isabella asked, recorder running. Really, not the speeches you give other people, the real reason. Jack was quiet for a long time. I told you about my daughter, Emily, the one who died. Yeah, Emily. He looked at his hands, scarred, calloused hands that had built and broken things his whole life. For 15 years after she died, I kept asking myself what I could have done different. What if I'd pushed harder when she said she was fine? What if I'd shown up one day earlier? What if I'd been there when she needed me? You couldn't have known. That's what everyone said, but I knew. Deep down, I knew something was wrong and I didn't act. I let fear and distance and my own life get in the way. And she died because of it. That's not your fault. Maybe, but it felt like it. For a long, long time. He looked at Isabella. And then you knocked on my door. You and your mother and your brothers and sister, starving, terrified, barely alive, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for. The chance to do what I couldn't do for Emily. Save someone. Not just save. Show up. Be there when it mattered. Fight when everyone else walked away. He smiled. You gave me that chance, Isabella. You and your family. You didn't just change your lives that night. You changed mine. Isabella turned off the recorder. Uncle Jack. Yeah. I'm glad we found you. I'm glad you found me too, kid. She hugged him, then not the fierce, desperate hugs of those first days, but something softer, something permanent. I'm going to make you proud, she whispered. You already have. The ceremony was held on a Saturday. The state capitol rotunda was packed. Politicians, journalists, law enforcement officials, survivors of domestic violence, and in the front row, 80 members of the Iron Wolves MC from every chapter in Arizona. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Leather and suits, chrome and marble, tattoos and ties, but they were all there for the same reason. When the governor took the podium, the room fell silent. Today we honor individuals who represent the very best of Arizona, who put themselves at risk to protect the most vulnerable among us, who proved that courage isn't defined by profession or background, but by action in the face of danger. He gestured to the front row. The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club has for decades been viewed with suspicion by many in our community. They live outside mainstream society. They look different. They sound different. And because of that, they've been judged often unfairly as threats rather than allies. A murmur rippled through the crowd. But 6 months ago, when a desperate mother knocked on their door with 4 starving children, they didn't hesitate. They didn't call the police. They didn't turn her away. They opened their doors, their hearts, and ultimately risked their lives to protect a family they'd never met from a predator the system had failed to stop. The governor paused. Victor Santos is now serving 5 consecutive life sentences for his crimes. 15 victims have finally been identified and their families notified. A network of corruption spanning multiple counties has been dismantled. And a mother and her 4 children are alive, safe and thriving because a group of bikers decided that protecting strangers was more important than protecting themselves. He turned to the front row. It is my profound honor to present the Governor's Humanitarian Award to the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, and to invite a very special young lady to the podium to make the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Isabella Martinez. The applause was thunderous. Isabella walked to the podium on shaking legs. She was 9 years old now. Her birthday had passed quietly 2 months ago, celebrated with cake and presents and the first real party she'd ever had. She'd grown. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered. She adjusted the microphone, pulled out her handwritten speech, and began. My name is Isabella Martinez. I'm 9 years old. And 6 months ago, my mother, my brothers, my sister and I almost died in the Arizona desert. The room went absolutely silent. We were running from my father. He hurt us. For years. He hurt my mother so badly she couldn't walk sometimes. He hurt my brother Gabriel so badly he stopped talking. He hurt all of us in ways I'm still learning to understand. She paused, took a breath. We had nowhere to go. No money, no car, no family we could reach. The police wouldn't help. Some of them worked for my father. The courts wouldn't help. Judges owed him favors. The system that was supposed to protect us had failed completely. Isabella looked at the front row, at Jack, at Sarah, at Bear and Whiskey and Chains and all the others who had become her family. And then we found them. Or they found us. I'm still not sure which. I just remember knocking on their door. I remember being so tired I could barely stand. I remember thinking that if they turned us away, we were going to die right there on their porch. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice held steady. They didn't turn us away. They carried us inside. They gave us food and water and medicine. They cleaned my bloody feet and held my crying siblings and sat with my mother while she broke down for the first time in years. And then my father came. The room seemed to hold its breath. He came with an army, cartel soldiers, corrupt police, enough firepower to destroy everything. He gave them a choice: hand us over or die. They chose to fight. Isabella's voice rose. They chose us. Strangers they'd known for less than a day. They looked at my father's army and they said, "No, these people are under our protection. You want them, come and take them." And when he put a knife to my throat and threatened to kill me, they saved me then too. They saved all of us, again and again and again. Every time we needed them, they were there. She turned to face the bikers directly. My father used to say that no one would ever help us, that we were alone in the world, that the only person I could trust was him, and he was lying even about that. He was wrong. There are good people in this world, people who fight for strangers, people who keep their promises, people who stand between the weak and the powerful, even when it costs them everything. These men are those people. They're not perfect. They don't pretend to be. But when we needed them most, when we were starving and terrified and completely out of hope, they became our angels. Not angels with wings and halos. Angels with leather jackets and motorcycles. Angels who prove every single day that what you look like doesn't matter. What you wear doesn't matter. What matters is what you do when someone knocks on your door and says, "Please, we're hungry." Isabella picked up the award, a crystal plaque catching the light, and walked to Jack. "This belongs to you," she said loud enough for the microphone to catch. "And to every member of the Iron Wolves, for being the family we didn't know we needed, for fighting for us when no one else would, for teaching me that heroes are real." She handed him the plaque. Then she hugged him, hard, tight. "I love you, Uncle Jack," she whispered. "Thank you for saving us." "I love you too, kid," his voice cracked. "And you saved us right back." The applause that followed was the loudest the Capitol had ever heard, but the ceremony wasn't over. Gabriel stepped forward from his seat. Maria tried to stop him, but he shook his head. "I want to say something." He walked to the podium. A 7-year-old boy in a suit that Whiskey had bought him, standing in front of hundreds of people, about to do something that would have been impossible a year ago. "I didn't talk for a long time," Gabriel said. His voice was small but clear. "My daddy hurt me so bad I forgot how." The words got stuck inside me. Every time I tried to talk, I heard his voice instead telling me to shut up, telling me bad things would happen if I made noise. The room was utterly silent. Then I met these people, and they didn't make me talk. They just waited. Whiskey taught me to fix watches. He said broken things could be fixed. He said I was broken too, but that was okay because he would help me put myself back together. Whiskey was crying openly now. He didn't try to hide it. And he did. They all did. They taught me that there are good men in the world, men who don't hurt kids, men who protect them instead. Gabriel looked at Jack. "I want to be like them when I grow up. I want to be someone who helps people, someone who fights for families like us." He raised his chin. "I'm not scared anymore. And I'm not quiet anymore. Not ever again." The applause was deafening. Gabriel walked to Whiskey and threw his arms around him. The grizzled old biker held him like something precious, tears streaming into his gray beard. "I'm proud of you," Whiskey choked out. "So proud." "I fixed something else," Gabriel whispered. "What?" "Myself." Whiskey laughed through his tears. "Yeah, kid. Yeah, you did." The reception afterward was chaos in the best way. Politicians shaking hands with bikers, journalists interviewing anyone who would stand still, survivors of domestic violence approaching Maria, thanking her, asking for advice. But the real stories were happening in the corners. Bear's mother had flown in from Mexico for the ceremony. She stood beside her son now, tiny next to his massive frame, looking up at him with eyes that overflowed with pride. "I never knew," she said in Spanish, "what you were doing, who you became. I thought—" She shook her head. "I was wrong." "You were never wrong about me, Mama. You believed in me when no one else did. You ran with 5 kids and nothing but faith. I'm who I am because of you." She reached up and cupped his face in her weathered hands. "Your father would be proud. I know I never talk about him, but he was a good man before the drink took him, and you have all his goodness, none of his demons." Bear broke down, completely. 30 years of walls crumbling in an instant. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I didn't call more. I'm sorry. Mijo." She pulled his head down to her shoulder. "You're here now. That's all that matters. You're here and you're good, and you're making a difference. What more could a mother want?" They held each other for a long time. 2 immigrants who had survived violence, poverty, and decades of separation, finally reunited in a moment of triumph. Across the room, Sarah was surrounded by a cluster of women, all survivors, all looking at her like she held the secrets of the universe. "How do we get out?" one of them asked. "How do we find people like you?" "You reach out," Sarah said. "You tell someone, anyone, a neighbor, a coworker, a stranger on the street. You find your voice and you use it, and then you keep using it until someone listens. What if no one listens? Then you find someone else, and someone else, and someone else. You don't stop. You don't give up. Because somewhere out there, there's someone who will fight for you. I promise. They might not wear a badge. They might not look like heroes, but they're there, waiting, looking for someone to protect." She handed out cards, the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence, her direct number on the back. "If you need help, call me, day or night, I'll answer." "Why?" another woman asked. "Why do you care so much?" Sarah looked across the room at Maria, at the children, at the family that had stumbled into her life and changed everything. "Because someone helped me once, a long time ago. and I swore that if I ever had the chance, I'd pay it forward. She smiled. This is me paying it forward. 1 year later, the Martinez family returned to the clubhouse, not as refugees this time, as guests, as family. The compound had changed. There was a sign now, Safe Haven, painted in bold letters across the entrance. A shelter for domestic violence survivors funded by donations that had poured in after the story went national. You built all this, Maria asked, looking around. We had help. Jack walked beside her. After the story broke, people started calling, donating, volunteering. Turns out a lot of folks wanted to help, they just didn't know how. How many families have you sheltered? 47. Some just for a night, others for months, whatever they need. Maria shook her head slowly. It started with us. It started with a knock on a door. Everything else grew from there. The children scattered the moment they arrived. Gabriel ran to find Whiskey, who had a new watch project waiting for him. Lily and Sophie made a beeline for Chains, who picked them up like they weighed nothing and carried them off toward the kitchen, promising cookies. Isabella walked with Jack. I got into the accelerated program, she said. They're letting me skip a grade next year. That's amazing. I'm going to graduate high school at 16, then college at 20, then law school. She said it like a battle plan. I've already picked my first case, which is the Scorpion Cartel. They're still operating. Smaller now, but still hurting people. By the time I'm a lawyer, I'm going to have enough evidence to take them down completely. Jack looked at her. 9 years old, almost 10 now, and already thinking 5, 10, 15 years ahead. You know something, I believe you. Good, because I'm going to do it. Isabella stopped walking and faced him. Uncle Jack, I need to tell you something. What's that? I wrote about you. For school. The assignment was someone who changed my life. I got an A. Can I read it? She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. I was hoping you'd ask. Jack unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was neat, precise, nothing like the desperate scrawl of a year ago. He read, The person who changed my life is Jack Thompson. Most people call him Reaper. He rides a motorcycle and wears a leather jacket and has tattoos on his arms. If you saw him on the street, you might cross to the other side. You might be afraid. I was afraid too once. Afraid of him. Afraid of his club. Afraid that no one would help my family when we needed it most. I was wrong. Jack Thompson is not a scary person. He's a good person who looks scary. There's a difference. A big one. When my family knocked on his door starving and terrified, he didn't turn us away. He didn't call the police. He didn't say it wasn't his problem. He opened his door and said, Come inside. You're safe now. And he meant it. For months, he and his club protected us. They fought for us. They risked their lives for us. Some of them got hurt. All of them were in danger. But they never stopped. They never quit. They never broke their promises. My father taught me that the world was cruel, that no one helps anyone, that you can only trust yourself, and even that's dangerous. Jack Thompson taught me something different. He taught me that goodness is a choice, that every day you decide what kind of person you want to be, that when someone needs help, you can walk away or you can stand up, and that standing up is always the right choice, even when it's hard. He taught me that family isn't blood. It's the people who show up, the people who stay, the people who fight for you when everyone else gives up. He taught me that heroes are real. They just don't look like the movies. Sometimes they look like bikers. Sometimes they look like criminals. Sometimes they look like the people everyone else is afraid of. But inside they're warriors, protectors, angels. My father was wrong about everything. The world isn't just cruel. It's also full of people like Jack Thompson, people who will fight for strangers, who will risk everything for what's right, who will keep their promises no matter the cost. I'm going to be like him someday. I'm going to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. I'm going to stand up when everyone else sits down. I'm going to keep my promises even when it's hard, because that's what heroes do. And Jack Thompson taught me that anyone can be a hero. Anyone. Even a scared little girl who knocked on a stranger's door and begged for help. Even me. Jack finished reading. His hands were shaking. Isabella, did I get it right? You got it perfect. Good, she smiled. Because I meant every word. He hugged her, tight, long, the way a father holds a daughter. I'm proud of you, kid, every single day. I know, that's why I keep trying. That evening, the whole family gathered for dinner. The long table in the clubhouse was full. Maria and her children, Jack and Sarah Bear, and his mother, Whiskey and Chains Razor, and the Phoenix brothers, Ghost, and his journalist friend Elena, a dozen other members who had become family over the past year. They ate and laughed and told stories. Gabriel demonstrated his latest watch repair. Lily sang a song she'd learned at school. Sophie showed off her new shoes, which lit up when she walked. And when the dishes were cleared and the children were yawning, Maria stood up. I want to say something. The room fell quiet. 1 year ago, I knocked on this door with nothing. No money, no car, no hope. 4 children who were dying. A husband who wanted to kill us. No future I could imagine that didn't end in blood. She looked around the table. You gave us everything. A home when we had none. Protection when we had no one. A family when ours was broken beyond repair. I can never repay what you did. Never. But I can pay it forward. And I have been. Every woman I help escape, every family I shelter, every child I protect, that's because of you. That's your legacy. That's what you built when you opened your door to strangers. She raised her glass. To the iron wolves. Who taught me that angels don't need wings? Who proved that heroes don't need capes? Who showed my children and me that there is still good in this world. Real good. The kind that fights. The kind that protects. The kind that never gives up. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Every glass in the room went up. To family, Jack said. To family, they echoed. And for a moment, everything was perfect. Later, as the evening wound down and the children fell asleep in various laps, Maria found Jack on the porch. I have to tell you something, she said. What's that? I'm getting married. Jack blinked. What? Maria laughed at his expression. Not right away. But there's someone. A good man. A really good man. He works at the coalition. He's patient and kind, and he adores the children. He's nothing like Victor. Nothing at all. Maria, that's wonderful. I was scared to tell you. I know that's silly, but it's not silly. It's family. Jack took her hand. You deserve happiness. Real happiness. And if this guy makes you happy, he does, he really does. Then I'm thrilled for you. And if he ever hurts you, he won't. But if he does, Maria smiled. I know. I've got an army of angels on motorcycles ready to defend my honor. Damn right you do. They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars. You changed my life, Jack. You know that, right? You changed mine too. Gave me a purpose again. A reason to keep fighting. He looked at her. Emily would have loved you, and Isabella, and all the kids. She would have loved being part of this. Maybe she is. In some way. Maybe. Jack smiled. Maybe she's the one who led you to our door. I like that thought. Me too. The screen door creaked. Isabella appeared, rubbing her eyes. Mama, Uncle Jack, are you coming inside? In a minute, mija. Okay. Isabella hesitated. Uncle Jack? Yeah, kid. I love you. I love you too. I know. She yawned. That's why I'm not scared anymore. Because I know people like you exist. And that's enough. She went back inside. Maria and Jack sat on the porch a while longer, watching the night settle over the desert. Somewhere out there, families were in danger. Somewhere women were being hurt. Somewhere children were learning to be afraid. But here tonight, 4 children slept safely in warm beds. A mother was planning a future she'd never dared imagine. And a club of bikers had become something more than outlaws. They'd become protectors, guardians, family. The screen door opened again. Ghost stuck his head out. "Press, we've got someone at the gate." "At this hour?" "Woman with 2 kids. Says she heard about us. Says she needs help." Jack looked at Maria. She smiled. "Go." He walked to the gate, heart steady, purpose clear. A young woman stood there, maybe 25. A toddler on her hip. A bruise on her cheek that makeup couldn't quite hide. "Please," she whispered. "I heard you help people. People with nowhere else to go. Is that true?" Jack opened the gate wide. "Yeah, that's true. Come inside. You're safe now." Because that's what they did. That's what they would always do. Not because it was easy. Not because it was profitable. Not because anyone asked them to. But because someone had to stand between the weak and the powerful. Someone had to fight for the forgotten. Someone had to keep promises when everyone else broke them. And if not them, who, if not now, when? The woman stepped through the gate, children clinging to her, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're safe. Thank me when you're healed. Thank me when you're standing on your own 2 feet, building a life nobody can take away from you." "Do you really think that's possible?" Jack looked back at the clubhouse, at Maria on the porch, at the windows where Isabella and Gabriel and Lily and Sophie slept peacefully, dreaming ordinary dreams. "I know it's possible. I've seen it happen, and I'm going to see it happen again with you, right here, right now." He put a hand on her shoulder. "This is where your story changes. This is where you stop being a victim and start being a survivor. It won't be easy. It won't be fast, but it will happen. I promise." "How do you know?" Jack smiled. "Because that's what we do. We keep our promises. All of them. Forever." He led her inside, where Sarah was already preparing beds, where Maria was brewing coffee, where a club of unlikely angels was ready to do what they did best: protect the broken, defend the helpless, and prove that sometimes the people society fears the most are exactly the ones who will fight hardest to save it. The door closed behind them. Outside, the desert stretched silent and vast, stars burning bright in a sky that had witnessed cruelty and kindness in equal measure. But inside that clubhouse, a new story was beginning. Another family saved. Another promise kept. Another link in a chain that would stretch forward through years and decades, touching lives no one could yet imagine. Maria Martinez had knocked on a door with nothing but her children and her desperation. She'd found angels, real angels, the kind that ride motorcycles and wear leather jackets and keep their promises no matter the cost. And now, because of what she'd survived, because of what she'd become, others would find those same angels. Others would be saved. Others would learn that hope isn't foolish and help isn't weakness. And sometimes the good guys win. Not just in stories, in real life. In a clubhouse in the Arizona desert, where a family called the Iron Wolves taught the world a simple, powerful truth. When someone knocks on your door and says, "Please, we're hungry," the only right answer is, "Come inside, you're safe now." That's not just a story, that's a promise. And promises, when kept by the right people, change everything.